Well, this case is going to be a heartbreaker, but I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to read you something that the patient recently wrote on his intake form. This is a quote. "I want to have the energy to pursue my goals in life, working or standing more than just a few hours at a time. Because I get so exhausted, it's difficult to stand, and I need to rest for 1 or 2 days afterwards. I'm so weak. I used to be an athlete. I love sports. I've been so slow to recover and prone to injury in recent years. I've had to stop doing many things I used to love to do. I've gotten so far away from myself, I can't even recognize the person in the mirror. I don't care about being rich. I don't care about being famous or happy or even sad. I just want to be able to do the things that I choose to do." When I read that, my heart broke for this young man. And he came to me with severe digestive issues, reflux, an ulcer, bloating, undigested food in the stool. He'd been on PPIs for months. Nothing was working until I stopped and asked myself, what if the problem isn't his gut? What if the gut is just the loudest microphone and it's amplifying signals from a system that has lost its ability to regulate? That question changed everything. I'm going to walk you through it.
Welcome to the Clinical Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Rhonda, your no fluff, tell it like it is business bestie for wellness practitioners just like you who want to build a practice you love and make a bigger impact and a little money while you're at it. So if you're ready to ditch the overwhelm, attract your dream, ideal patients, and finally run your practice with complete confidence, you're in the right place. Each week, we're tackling things from programs to patient retention to marketing strategies that actually work, sprinkled, of course, with a little sass, a lot of heart, and the step-by-step strategies that will help you get there. So grab your cup of coffee, your notebook, or whatever keeps you going, and let's build a practice you love and a life you love together.
Well, welcome back to the podcast. You can hear in my voice that I have a little bit more of a somber tone today because this particular clinical case is a really sad one for me, a very sad one. But it's worth sharing because the information that I think what you're gonna take away from this, I really hope is gonna change the way that you look at, I will say this, individuals that are broken. Okay, and I don't mean broken like irreparably, but their perception is that they're broken irreparably. They think that they are. I never believed that someone is. But when this man came to me, and he was actually a referral, and he came to me, he was a former competitive JV athlete. And now he can barely stand without needing a couple days of rest. He just gets up and he does a little bit of activity and then he's just down. So on his intake form, everything was digestive. Everything he told me was digestive. He has ongoing reflux. It's constant. It's worse at night. He's on an over-the-counter PPI, which is not working. His stomach is constantly burning, feels like it's on fire, even if he eats or drinks anything. He's nauseous in the morning. He's nauseous during the day. He's nauseous at night. He bloats immediately after eating anything that's any kind of bread, any fatty foods, anything with fiber, or even dairy. He's been previously diagnosed with ulcers, GERD, IBD, and SIBO. He had some type of gastric surgery in the past. I couldn't quite get that information out of him, but there was some gastric surgery in the past. It was not a gastric bypass. I do know that. He can't eliminate every day, but he doesn't eat much because he can't poop, so the poop isn't going to be there, right? He's not going to eliminate. He doesn't have enough bulk. When he does go, the stool is really sticky. He's crampy. It's got undigested food in it. He has trapped gas that's super painful, especially if he eats too much. And sometimes he said, I will just eat because I know I'm so starving that I will eat knowing that I'm going to pay for it for hours afterwards. So he's on Carafate, famotidine, a calcium carbonate. There you go. DGL, deglycerized licorice, and slippery elm. So I always ask, like, what are your priorities? What are your priorities? The patient is thinking, oh, well, we're going to go this route, and then I'm over here going this route. Sometimes you lose them. And I felt like this young man was a bit fragile. His tone, I wish I could repeat the tone or convey it or something, but there was no life to his voice. Literally, like someone had just sucked the life out of him. Very hopeless is probably the best way I could describe it. And so my heart broke. And he was referred by someone that I love and care about. And I really, 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 really wanted to help this young man. So he said that he's had gut inflammation for 3 years. And I'm not sure how he knew that, but that's what he said. And he knew that his limited diet doesn't always work. So he's already knew that there was a lot of things he couldn't eat, but it wasn't working. He has posture problems. So like his posture, his mobility, his joints, he's weak. He just feels frail. He said his skin sensitivity, he's sensitive to the sun. He gets moles. He bruises easily. He has slow wound healing. His energy is next to nothing. He has horrible anxiety, severe depression, and he literally just kind of felt hopeless. But I never give up on anyone. I'm like, oh, well, we got this. Like, I'm going to help you figure it out. I don't ever think there's anyone that's unfigure-outable. So I was all in with him. But I kind of, me, I can be pretty animated. But I lowered my tone. And I met him where he was, so I didn't like run over the top of him. But when I got on the call, when I heard the weak vocal energy, his presentation, he would hardly look at me even. He wasn't strong. He wasn't confident. I just knew he was feeling so badly. He also had insomnia. He said he's had severe night sweats for many years. Those were his words. He does not sleep in a dark room. He did have a history of mono. Do you see how deep this is getting? Are you guys feeling this? Like it's deep. This is a deep, deep hole, very deep hole. And I'm about to go into the deep hole with this guy. Loss of motivation, decreased productivity. I think he had a job. He didn't really talk about it much, but if he didn't seem like, I'm not sure how he would have any gratification in the job because he certainly wasn't gratified with his life. He said he was having weight gain, but he looked pretty, I don't want to say emaciated because I didn't see his whole body, but this was virtual, but he looked thin, just looked very thin. He said, I tend to be pretty irritable and angry, and then I get discouraged. And then because I lash out or because I get irritable and angry, then that makes me more depressed. He said, I have memory issues and I have very low libido. So where do you even start with that? What would you do? Like, that's a lot. That's a lot to unpack. So I started asking some questions, and I, of course, asked my never been well since question. And he said, he gave me 3 of them. He said the first one was when he had COVID in 2020. So he said he had it. He did not have the vaccine, but he was very, very sick in 2020. The second moment, he'd said, was he had a bad breakup with a girlfriend in 2022. And then there was a very emotionally significant situation that he did not give me details about, but he said it was very emotional, very difficult, and it was in his primary family unit in 2023. So I thought, okay, there's definitely some emotional things that have gone on here, some really high stressors, plus we have an infection. So I asked him about the mono, and he said the mono, so just like track with me. He said the mono happened before COVID in 2019, and he was really sick with the mono. Now, notice he did not tell me that. He did not identify that the mono was the never been well since moment. That didn't even on his radar until I started asking him about it. What he said was that the being sick with COVID was the moment, but he had mono the year before. And he said, I was down with mono for a month. And then he said, before that, I was a competitive athlete. It's like, oh, wow, this is kind of fast then. So we go from competitive athlete through 2018, then we get to 2019 and we get mono. And he said he was never the same, but there had to have been some level of functioning between the mono and the COVID, because he said to me that COVID was kind of like when the house fell apart. So he didn't identify the mono as the house falling apart. Never been well since moment. It was COVID. So the mono started it, I believe, and then it was leading up, and then the COVID just accelerated it, right? It just kind of shined a light on it. So that's kind of the real timeline, right? Mono in 2019, COVID in 2020, trauma in 2022, emotional trauma in 2023. So layer after layer after layer after layer of trauma that never resolved, and each one just building up on the other. So I thought, all right, I got this. This is hard for me, but I'm going to tell you what happened. So I thought, well, I know there's an ulcer, and the ulcer's likely from the high stress. So I thought, well, I really have to start there. He was taken to glycerized licorice, which is great for ulcers, and the cyprium, which is also great, but that wasn't working. But my question was, is this an ulceration because of an infection, or is the ulcer because of high stress? And we just need to decrease the stress response and improve the mucus barrier and let the stomach heal. One of the fastest ways that you can heal an ulcer, as a side note, is with cayenne. It is not pleasant. but it works. But it's an old time. That's how they used to do it. They would give somebody hot pepper and cayenne with high heat units. And what happens is it's so irritating to the mucus lining. It's kind of like prolotherapy. You insert saline into the joint and the joint gets real irritated and inflamed and then it heals. Same idea. So you put the hot into the stomach and then the stomach goes into panic mode and it starts to quickly release those mucins and the mucins lay down the mucus barrier. And once the mucus barrier is down, then the ulceration can heal. And so I had that fleeting thought, but it was very fleeting because I knew that there was no way he was going to be able to do this. So I thought, all right, well, I'm going to start gently. So I said to him, have you ever taken any like bitters or anything like that? Did those bother you? And he said, no, not really. He said, I just always feel a lot of pressure up in that, epigastric xiphoid area. And I said, okay, well, let's start with some bentonite clay and let's see if we can absorb some of that, extra fluid in there. And let's do a little bit of maybe just a real little bit of gallbladder support. I was a little nervous about that, but I did it. And then, of course, I gave him something for stress, for anxiety. And then I gave him a vitamin mineral from Doctor's Research. I gave him that product because I really like that one. And then I thought at the very kind of the end of our first call, I thought, I'm going to just give him one more thing for mood because I got to get him to have some sunshine. I need him to just see this tiniest little ray of sunshine as I'm still sitting here in Hawaii enjoying the sunshine. I just thought I'm going to do that. So I gave him a Neviton because it has saffron in it. And so I sent him off for that. I said, I want you to chew your food thoroughly and I want you to try and really be in a state of like calm and relax. When you keep taking the deglycerized licorice, keep taking this Librium, and the deglycerized licorice, the GGL is a good brand. So I wasn't worried about that. And he said, okay. So here's his response. He says, well, and I asked him to log his food and just pay attention to symptoms, just like how he was feeling. Because I got to know, like if you're taking these supplements, I need to know what's happening. Is it kind of like what I talked about last week on the podcast where I added that GI absorb, and it caused the darker thoughts for her? It tells me there's something else in the gut. But that was kind of what I was thinking. So this is what I get from him via text. He says, logging my food and paying attention to these sensations is incredibly difficult for me because it's been triggering my anxiety, which then exacerbates anything that I am feeling. I was on PPIs for so long and I was scared about getting a perforation or a bleed. My family really drilled that into me. So I stopped the PPI. But I have a new symptom now, painfully tingly tongue and a gum area towards the back that's very raw on the right side. It feels bumpy and raw and sore. So he was tracking every single sensation. And he said every sensation was triggering more and more anxiety. And that seems to be triggering more and more symptoms. I thought, okay, so tracking symptoms, not going to work for him. So on our second appointment, the stomach burning was still bothering him. He just said he wanted to go back on the PPI. I said, okay, that's great. But he told me initially that he didn't think the PPI was working, which is why I said to him, that's up to you. I can't tell you to go off or on that. But I said, you could try and see. So he said it wasn't working, but now he said it is working. So he went back on it and he said he's feeling nauseous and maybe some burning, but I'm going to get back on the PPI, which I didn't understand that part. So he forgot to order the Calm Restore. He forgot to order that one. So we got that going. I don't know if that was helping with his mood or not. And he kept forgetting to take the Neviton, which I knew was going to help with his mood. So I wasn't getting the cooperation from him that I really wanted to get because he just was so in his head. Like I said, I think it was last week, and I said, sometimes the patients get real navel gazy. They're like navel gazing. They're thinking about all the symptoms and they're not looking up, looking at the bright side of things, like thinking, how can I get better? How am I going to get better? All he's thinking about is that he's dying and all the symptoms that are horrible. So he sent me a food log and I couldn't make any sense of it. There were no dates. They were screenshots. And I didn't have the heart to ask him, could you please send this to me? Literally with a phone, he took a screenshot of something written and I couldn't make any sense of it. So I tried, but I couldn't make any sense of it. He said now his skin is itchy, which I always think gallbladder with that, or histamines. He said he feels worse and wheat and corn are causing loose bowels. And he still has undigested food in his stool. So I said, okay. So I stopped the gallbladder support. Now, can you kind of get this? Now I'm literally kind of grasping at straws. I don't know what to do because he's not able to communicate with me. He's so focused on the symptoms that I can't even get him to think about the potential or possibility of getting better, which is what I want to do, but I can't. So I said, all right, listen, how about this? Let's try some aloe. I'm thinking, what can go wrong with aloe? Aloe is very soothing. I explained to him, think about when you get a sunburn. When you put aloe on your skin, it soothes and cools and it's like a breath of fresh air. So I said, let's try aloe on your skin. I mean, aloe orally. So I tell him what to get. And then he started talking about how he's having ruminating thoughts and that the ruminating thoughts make him not want to eat. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I think I'm in over my head. I don't know what, if I could see him in person, like once a week or twice a week, probably I could do this, but this like every 2 to 3 weeks thing is not working. So I said, well, maybe HiPep. So Standard Processor MediHerb has a great supplement called HiPep, and it has deglycerized licorice and meadowsweet, and I can't remember the other thing, maybe chamomile in it. And it's great for ulcers. That's what it's for. So I suggested the HiPep. And then I got his protocol kind of dialed in. Like I had a few suggestions. I wasn't sure he was going to do them, but I felt like I had to kind of walk on eggshells a little bit because I didn't want to say anything that was going to cause him more anxiety. He wasn't upset with me, but I didn't want to cause him any more anxiety. And I'm really thinking like, okay, what am I missing? He starts taking these supplements. He makes the adjustments. And then he sends me another text message. And he said, nearly everything I have eaten has passed partially or completely undigested. Now, right there, that sentence made me stop because I thought, if you eat a piece of carrot, does that mean it literally came out as the same thing that you chew, like a full piece of carrot? Like you chew, swallow, and it's completely undigested? Like the whole piece of meat came out undigested? Like I'm having a hard time with that one. He said, I've made 4 trips to the bathroom today. The days when I take the gallbladder support, which I didn't know he was continuing to take, but it's okay, things get more mobile but less digested. So that's causing a loosening of the stool. My body is still getting itching. I still feel burning on the left stomach and in my throat. I've been having a lot of peripheral neuropathy on the left side of my body from my head to my toe. That was one day. And then the next day, he said, today I went without the gallbladder support and I ate very clean. My stomach is gurgly all the time. I have burning in my throat when there's no food. Pain in the upper left side of my chest and stomach area. I am not feeling good. So now these 2 back-to-back text messages, there was actually a few more that had happened before that, but over the course of a week, I think he texted me like maybe 4 or 5 times. And this is the moment when I kind of stopped and I went, okay, something is not right here because all of the things that I recommended, he's either not taking or he does take and then symptoms change. And I had this aha moment when I realized that every time I changed something, he went into panic mode. Gallbladder support made things move faster, but it worsened his digestion. The bitters aggravated his ulcer. The omeprazole or the PPI helped his reflux, but then he said it increased his inflammation. And the Calm Restore, when he finally took that, he said it made him too sleepy, so he couldn't take it. And even though he was only taking 1, he was tracking his symptoms faster than his body could adapt. And that was when I knew that we had a neurological stress pattern because the symptoms were lateralizing, meaning like he had all left-sided pain. That's just a classic neurological stress pattern. But he wasn't getting better because I was treating the gut as the driver, but the driver wasn't the gut. The gut was just the microphone that was telling me there was something else going on. The gut was the weak link. It was where the sound was coming out. But the gut wasn't the problem. It was his nervous system. So I said, okay, and I went back. I mean, I spent several hours on this, reading and researching and thinking. I thought, okay, go back. Because now I'm hard in this digestive road. I'm like, okay, stop. This is not working. I think his nervous system is just completely taxed. Go back to the intake forms. So I went back to the intake forms and I literally sat down with a blank sheet of paper and I'm reading through his intake forms on my computer and I'm writing down the things that stand out to me. First of all, I looked at the fact that, he had Epstein-Barr in 2019. What does that automatically tell me? It tells me there's an infection. Okay, I got that. Then he had COVID in 2020. What does that tell me? Infection. It also tells me probably wore his immune system down, probably dysregulated his nervous system. So I'm writing all these things down. And I realized that it was then compounded by there was 2 illnesses, and then there were 2 very hard emotional symptoms. And that's when like the apple cart crashed and all the apples went everywhere. And the only thing that's there is a dead donkey and a cart on top of your head. Like he literally was pinned under the cart and couldn't get himself out. So then I thought, all right, what is really happening here? First of all, we have a central nervous system is as unstable as it possibly can be. It literally cannot regulate. He cannot regulate. And I'm going in giving him digestive support, not because he doesn't need it. He does need it. But his nervous system is so dysregulated, he cannot regulate. He cannot regulate. That's why he felt worse when I was giving him all the things. He's hyper viscerally sensitive, so one little thing is it feels next to him. Everything is magnified, like the gut is the microphone. So it's just magnified for him. And then I think there's probably the fear. He's afraid he's dying. The fear that's driving it. No one can fix it. I'm falling apart. Something is wrong. I'm dying. I'm not feeling any better. All these people are trying to help me. No one can help me. And now this has been going on for a good 6 years. He's low digestive signaling capacity. So I'm sure with the PPI and all of the stress, and then you've got an ulcer in there, good grief. I don't know how he's even he probably doesn't even have a drop of hydrochloric acid in there. That's why he's got all this reflux in his throat, and it's burning, and it's left-sided like pain and all the things. He's probably got some mast cell dysregulation going on in there. And then you've got the traumas. So we know that traumas live in the body and they stay in the body. You know, Feelings Buried Alive Never Die by Carol Truman. Those emotional traumas stay in the body. They will resurrect. They have anniversaries. They know when the triggers, they know what the triggers are. So for instance, for him, maybe the day that he had this bad breakup, he had carrots for lunch, carrot soup. And every time he eats carrot soup, like it's locked with that trauma. And so every time he eats carrot soup, his nervous system just goes crazy. But he's not going to remember that that was what happened. So now I'm not qualified to do any of that. So I thought, okay, I got to get, and he's been in therapy. He's been getting counseling. But we need to go deeper than that. Like, we got to get some, we have to go way deeper than just talking it out kind of therapy. This is not going to work. So his whole system, in my opinion, it just had completely lost its regulatory capacity. He could not regulate anything. He was literally in constant danger, fight or flight. He couldn't get out of it. So every time I introduced something new, even something that was super helpful, his nervous system interpreted it as a threat, as a danger. Watch out, be careful, something bad's going to happen. Amplify all the signals. Warning, 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 danger, danger, danger. So his food passes through undigested, the pain moves around, the lateralized symptoms. That's why the PPI works and it doesn't work. This supplement works and it doesn't work. The DGL works and it doesn't work. And so I realized that A, I just went too fast. B, I didn't address the real problem, but I didn't know what it was, but I didn't address the real problem. I was just trying to find the right combination to unlock the safe, so to speak. But I just kept adjusting. But every time I made an adjustment, he got worse because it was a signal that his already overtaxed nervous system had to process, and it just couldn't. And so I was literally making him worse on every single level. And this is the guy who just says, I was an athlete and now I can hardly do anything. And when I realized that, I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And then I was only feeding this monster, not calling him a monster. I was only feeding it by asking him to track his symptoms. So I thought, all right, here's what I'll do. I mean, I care so much about this family and I really wanted to help him. So I thought, I'm going to phase this out, much like the case I had last week. I thought I'm going to phase it. We're going to start by not doing anything except we're going to protect digestion. So I thought it's not going to kill him to stay on the PPI and do some aloe. So maybe we do PPI in the morning and some aloe. And then in the middle of the day, maybe some Gastrex, which is going to help to calm. And then maybe in the evening, we do some slippery elm and maybe a little bit, maybe one calm restore from Gaia, one little chamomile tea or something like that. I mean, I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm just trying to settle. So that was my thought. Okay, I'll do that. Then I want to stop, no more analyzing, have him start to eat normal meals, just simple foods, the things that he enjoys, nothing crazy, nothing new for his nervous system to have to process, no journaling your symptoms, no analyzing your stools. You're not allowed to look in your poop to see if it comes out undigested or not. No online research, no Dr. Google, no none of that. Because what happens is then he goes out and he would look, and I get it, we all would. If you're sick, you want to go figure out what the problem is. And his gut and his nervous system can't learn if the rules keep changing. He needs boring. He needs safe. He needs predictable. His nervous system needs to stop bracing for the next impact. And then once I get that, then I can start going in with some targeted support. Once I have predictability, his nervous system is predictable, no more symptoms, no more looking at the stool, none of that. Then I can go in and I can do a little bit more support and get the nervous system reset. So once he's all reset, then I can come in. Once his system is calmed, his nervous system is calm. Can you imagine what would happen if I just said, oh, let's start on the stealth pathogen protocol? I'd probably kill him. And I think I instinctively knew that from the beginning. But I'm thinking it's just digestion, and then we'll just give him some adaptogens and we'll calm his nervous system. I just literally had no idea he was so incredibly dysregulated. So now, fast forward. So since I got those string of text messages back and forth, I spent a whole bunch of time trying to kind of get this figured out for him. I've never heard back from him. And that I think is the saddest part, is that I don't know where he's going to go and get help. And maybe someone else figures it out better than I did, but I lost him. And he's the one that broke my heart because I really wanted to help him. I wanted more than anything to help him. So I learned a big lesson with this one in this situation, is that sometimes people come to us and they're so broken. Looking back, now that I've had the kind of aha moment that I had, now I'm going to have that perspective, which is why I'm sharing it with you, because I want you to think about those patients that come in and they are literally just so dysregulated. I don't think we put enough stock, or weight is a better word, on the fact that the nervous system is so badly dysregulated. It's so badly dysregulated. And when we don't consider that in recommending supplements or whatever it is that we're going to do, for someone like him, he was already so dysregulated and his nervous system was so undone. I wish I would have, not should have. I don't like that. I would have loved to have seen that ahead of time or early on, that he is so dysregulated that going slower, which is what I tried to do, but it wasn't even going slow. It was creating safety. I think if I had to sum it up, that's what I would say, is creating safety for him. And that was what I didn't do. And I needed to help him feel safe in his own body, because his body didn't feel safe to him. It betrayed him with the mono, it betrayed him with the COVID, it betrayed him with a girlfriend, and it betrayed him with a family issue. And that betrayal just left him not trusting anyone outside or himself. And so he couldn't trust himself. So how in the world is he emotionally, psychologically, mentally, energetically even going to be able to trust that what I'm giving him is going to help either? So I haven't talked to the family member yet. That's like my next on my agenda, is to make that phone call, because I'm sure there's been conversation about me and about that I didn't help, or I made it worse, or money was spent on supplements and they didn't get used. And, I'm sure that's all happening. And I care about this family. So I will call and have a conversation. And I don't really want to do that, but I care enough about this young man to want to help. And I've reached out to him 3 times, and each time I've been met with silence. So he's either moved on or something. I know that he moved. So this was a sad one for me, because I'm pretty good at what I do. I think I'm pretty good as a clinician. I've been doing it a long time. And there aren't very many things that I can't kind of think my way out of. But this one was probably one of the hardest ones I've ever done. Not because of the presenting symptoms were hard. Like dealing with mono, no problem. COVID, no problem. Emotional stressors, things that dysregulate the nervous system, I'm good with that. But it didn't work with him, because there was so much. And whether that's because he was constitutionally already a little bit weak to start with, maybe there were emotional factors that were, part of his childhood, maybe there was childhood abuse, all those things. I just know I entered the story at 2019 with a mono, and I didn't have anything other remarkable. He didn't tell me anything else about his childhood. So maybe there was some big trauma there. Maybe it was already dysregulated when he walked into the mono. I don't know. But I'm really praying that I get another opportunity to help him, and that he will trust me to help him again, as both of us kind of figure this out together. So I think my takeaways, which is what I've tried to do every week with you guys, my takeaway here is the loudest symptom isn't always what needs to be addressed. And, we kind of know this, but I think it bears, consideration and repeating. His gut was screaming at me, but the gut wasn't the problem. It was just where the evidence of the traffic collision, the upside down apple cart, was happening in the gut. That's where the symptoms were, but it wasn't the real problem. The gut just gave him, and then the feedback loop was there. So then the issues in the gut just continued to feed back into the nervous system. And then number 2, some patients just need to be stabilized. And I never really have thought about that. Like the case I talked about last week, I went and did the, phase 1 where I just kind of primed her, prime, ready to go to deal with the H. pylori. This is not that. This is like, we need stability. We're in a boat that's like a sailboat that's keeling left and right and almost tipping over, and then it's up and then it's forward, and then it's like all unstable. Some patients just need the stability first, and that was him. I needed to create boring, predictable, consistent safety. That would have been the medicine, but I didn't know that. Number 3, I've never had anyone where they tracked their symptoms and it actually was the fodder that caused amplification of the symptoms. Every time I had him track, he got worse because his nervous system couldn't regulate around it, right? The 4th thing was post-viral issues are very real. They're not just, he was a competitive athlete before he got mono. And after that, eventually we talked about it and he said, yeah, I could see that I wasn't the same. I thought it was COVID, but now I see that it was the mono. And so there was probably a neuroimmune injury in there somewhere. And that really requires a completely different approach. And then we all know this, but going too fast is almost always going to be a clinical mistake. We have to go slow. I just kept adjusting his protocol, trying to find the right combination, thinking that it was digestion, but the digestion isn't the problem. I had to go deeper than the digestion. I had to go back. I had to slow the roll down. The answer wasn't to try harder. The answer was actually to slow down. And I think the other thing that I realized is that I just need to get out of the way. By giving him that consistency, predictability, stability, safety, I get out of the way and I just let his body do what it does to heal. Like maybe, I can't believe I didn't do this, but in hindsight, I thought, well, why am I not getting him in a hyperbaric chamber? Why am I not sending him out for hyperbaric therapy or for PEMF therapy? Why would I not? I didn't even think about doing that because I'm focused on his gut. Like, oh, we got a digestive situation going on here. But that's what he needed. That's what he needed. So this one was a hard one. It was a hard one. And I'm hoping and praying that I'm going to have another chance with him. I don't know if I will or not, but I'm hoping and praying that I do. I can tell you one thing. I will not fix his gut right away because that made everything worse. I'm going to go after that nervous system and I'm going to settle, calm, and really help allow his body to trust him. Go get some other outside therapies like the PMF, like hyperbaric support, some NET or TFT or EFT or something like that can start to unwrap the deep emotional trauma that's in there. Because talk therapy is probably not going to work for him. That's just not going to work for him. So there's my hard, sad case. I know I'm kind of a Debbie Downer today. And because it just makes me sad. Don't you have cases like that sometimes where you're just like, oh, like I missed that one and I wish I hadn't missed it. It makes me pretty sad that I did. So I'm praying that I'm going to get another chance. So I'm glad you're hanging with me. Next week, we're going to wrap it up in our series. So I will see you back next week. If you have not downloaded the resource with this clinical thinking series, you can do so at rondanelson.com/6 principles. It's the number 6 principles. And if you want more clinical help like this, you want to learn more, you want to learn the how of putting really workable functional medicine in your practice, you can join me in Clinical Academy. Although today is not the very best commercial, is it? That's all right. I do know what I'm doing. This was a hard case. So anyway, you guys, thanks for hanging out with me. I'll be back next week on the podcast. Take care. Have a great week.